Welcome to this edition of Tuesday Talks with Twyla. Today we're going to talk about anxiety. So, I had done a little research on this, and it's a topic that is a little bit near and dear to my heart because my mom would experience it in, I think, a little bit different way than what we commonly hear about it today. And so when you go to the definition, you go to the Googles and you define anxiety, it is defined as a state of worry, unease, or nervousness, and it's typically about something in the future. So what's missing from this definition is it's defined like and it's an emotion, right? So the anxiety is defined by the worry, the unease, the nervousness that you experience, right? That you feel in your body. That's what anxiety is. So for my mom, she would describe it as being nervous. She would feel nervous. And I never really understood what that meant, right? Because commonly people would talk about anxiety and back then, my mom's been gone for several years. And this would have been like when I was growing up and in the house with her. I didn't really understand like what she was nervous about, right? Like so nervous to me was fear-based. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, what are you scared of? What do you think's going to happen? Which all of that is the same, right? Worry. We're worrying about something that might happen, that could happen. And then the unease is like how you would describe like maybe the sensation in your body, right? Just that uneasy feeling. But what's missing from all of that, that is the description of the experience. And then when it goes into typically about something in the future. So that piece references what you are thinking about. Typically, what you are thinking about that's causing the sensation is something in the future. So we're worried about something that might happen, that could happen, right? And that's the in the future. It hasn't happened yet. There's a chance, maybe, some of the stuff I know that we worry about are very far-fetched. It's very unlikely, but it doesn't feel that way, right? It feels very real. It feels sometimes very scary. Um, and I think that for me, I like those descriptors better. When I'm feeling anxiety, I'm worrying about something, I'm thought looping, I'm ruminating on something, and it's all kind of that same experience. And for some of us, it can be like an overthinking, an overwhelming, like all of it can be over, right? Like it just overwhelming, overthinking, kind of getting really like stuck or caught in that thought loop or in that ruminating. And the interesting thing about it, when you read the definition, is it feels like that something is happening to us, right? That's what gets our attention is the feeling of it. And I think sometimes these things can happen where we don't really realize that they're happening, right? They have these stories about them that recur, certain things that we just tend to worry about, things that come up often, and maybe they're triggered by, when our children go off to college and when they drive away, or, when it's a Friday night and we haven't heard from them. Whatever it is that triggers it, that brings up that feeling of worrying about something that might happen and the thoughts that come with it, right? But we feel the sensation and we start there. And I've talked about this a lot because I know that it can be different for everyone, and catching the thoughts can be very challenging. And so, even when I'm working with my clients and I just ask them over and over how they're feeling, what does it feel like? Describe how it feels, like what's happening in those moments. And when you get curious about it, you will find the thoughts. They're there. Well, I'm afraid that, my son's going to get in a car accident on the way back to college. I'm afraid they're going to go, do something stupid. Um, whatever it is that we're worrying about, we're afraid is going to happen in the future. And those are the thoughts that we're thinking, and that feeds that. And right, it's like this vicious cycle. And then, your mind can just offer you all of the crazy negative thoughts. And understand that that's what your brain's designed to do, because your brain doesn't understand that these are illogical thoughts because it's feeling the sensation in your body. And so it interprets it as danger. There's something dangerous. And so you just layer on, or it's, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or you mistaken it for like a gut intuition. Well, there's, definitely something's going to happen. I need to listen to this, right? And so we just have to get very curious about all of that. Because if you're someone that experiences the sensation of anxiety a lot, and you're thinking or referring to it like it's like an intuition, like a gut feeling. Sorry, I'm just getting I thought I had this turned off. You feel like, oh, it's my gut talking to me. It's my intuition is telling me there's something up here, right? And that's really not what's happening. You're having illogical thoughts. You're feeding this frenzy of negativity, of danger, and your body's reacting, and you have all of this going on, and your mind is just feeding it with more and more negative thoughts. And you're ruminating, you're thought looping, you know, you're building, the overwhelm is just mounting, right? And so understanding all of this so that you can crack the code on the anxiety, and not that you'll knock it away, right? It'll always come back because it's our body's way of, like anything that we interpret that way, our body reacts, right? But we can get a handle on it, and we can understand what to do when it appears. And so, what the first thing that I want to tell you, and this was right with the definition, is it's a common human experience. So, nothing has gone wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. For some people, they experience it worse than others. And from what I've kind of gathered from different people that I've talked to, it depends on how good they are at interrupting the anxiety or the anxious episode, whatever you want to call it. Um, how much they believe the thoughts that they're being told. Your brain will come up with these, and if you believe them for whatever reason, if it's just something that's, common, or you maybe, if you think this a lot, you find evidence for it, even though, it's still an illogical thought. And you might be telling yourself, like, I can't help it, or I can't stop thinking this. And I've even heard my coach say that, my business coach say that. And I just want to be like, no, you can actually stop it. You can interrupt it. So knowing that and feeling empowered by that is the very first step. And believing that you can interrupt it, that you can stop it, that you can redirect your brain to something else, and what that would look like. And it would be maybe different for everyone, but there's certain times where you have to have some kind of a interruption in that cycle. And there's a lot of ways to do that. There's, just catching it, noticing it, and redirecting your brain, right? Like, that sounds super easy and smooth, and that's not exactly how it works in the moment. There's physical interrupts, right? Like, so if you're just, wherever you're at where this is happening, move your body. Get up and go walk around. Go do 10 jumping jacks. And if you're like, I can't do a jumping jack, well, imagine what you're going to be thinking about while you're trying to do 10 jumping jacks. You're not going to be in that anxious cycle, right? You've interrupted it physically with your body. You've gone and done something else. Now, what if you're at your desk and you can't go do jumping jacks? I would challenge you that you could go into the restroom and do squats. There are options of things you can do. You can go stand in the stall and do wall push-ups, right? That's my new favorite thing, wall push-ups, because I can do them, right? I can't do a regular push-up. I can't even do one on my arm, on my knees right now because of my shoulders. And so wall push-ups are my new favorite thing. But anyway, I challenge you to be able to move your body, walk around the office, one of the fun things that I'll offer to my clients is like a mini scavenger hunt. Go find, like all the colors of the rainbow. Just go find something of every color. Now, you've redirected your brain to something totally different. So you're not, and it might still, the anxiety or the anxious thoughts might creep in while you're doing this in between, but you're working on redirecting it and it works because your brain is now have a mission. You just told it, we're going to go find something red. We're going to go find something orange, right? And nobody needs to know what you're doing. You're just walking around like, oh, I'm just stretching my legs, right? I just need to, or I need to go outside and get some air. Whatever it is. I mean, you always, you're not shackled to your desk. You can always get up, use the restroom, go walk to the copy room, go walk around the office building, go walk outside. Um, there's always something available to interrupt it physically with your body. So the other thing that is very interesting about anxiety is that it it thrives, I couldn't think of the word. It thrives on vagueness, right? So sometimes um I feel like we can be very clear with the thoughts we're having about what we're worried about. Like I know that when I do worry, I can get very detailed about what I'm worried about. Um, and usually that's when I will notice that I have, squirreled into creating, right? Because I've created it. It didn't happen to me. I let myself go into every detail. So if it's in the example of, my son has a car accident, right? Like I have visuals, I have sounds, I mean, I can get very descriptive. And so, but when I do that, that kind of breaks me out of like just the feeling, the anxious feeling, right? Because now I'm focused on all these things. But if you're just having anxious feelings and you're having vague thoughts that go through or illogical thoughts or whatever that looks like for you, whatever ruminates or thought loops or creates kind of that overwhelming, like just anxious feeling, there's thoughts under there and they can just be vague. They can just be, almost like you don't even know what they are. And that's what fuels that anxiety. So getting details, getting descriptive, getting very crystal clear. And the very first step of this, if you're going to implement something to kind of crack this code, is get very curious and aware of everything that's happening. So, usually the first thing that you would notice is that it's a sensation in your body, it's how you feel. So, lean into that. And if you don't know what that means, it's accepting it. It's not avoiding, hiding, right? Fighting it, resisting it. And I do those gestures on purpose. Leaning into it is getting curious. It's accepting it and just being open to it and just going, okay, this is here. What is happening right now? What am I feeling? What does it feel like? It feels like there's an elephant on my chest. It feels like I just have a cement mixer in my stomach, right? Whatever your body is experiencing, my heart is racing, there's pressure on my chest, right? All of those types of things that can come along with it. When you hear people describe a panic attack or just like the overwhelming anxiety where they're just kind of like frozen, right? They're just stuck in that cycle of overwhelming anxiety. But there's the action part of leaning in is actively accepting it. And what I always recommend and what I do is just say it out loud. I see you there. I feel you there. I feel anxious. I feel weight on my chest. I feel pressure on my chest. I feel uneasy in my stomach. I feel, right? Like whatever it feels like, get descriptive. And then keep going till you find the thoughts. Like, what are you thinking about? What are you afraid of? What are you envisioning in the future that's got you worried? Right? So if it's typically about something in the future, right? We're imagining what that is. We're imagining that thing in the future. We're making that up, right? That's what imagine is. Visualizing and imagining is using our imagination. for something that is fueling the fear and the worry and the nervousness. And that just makes it worse. And so when we lean into it and we get curious, what else going on here? Why am I thinking this? Why am I imagining this? Right? And what is it? What am I imagining? What are the details of it all? And I was saying why. And when I say why, for me, it's not like the reason behind it. It's more like the what. So I should say what instead. Because if you're trying to figure out why, here's your answer. Because you're human. That's why. There really is no other reason. There's nothing wrong with you. Your brain isn't broken. You're not like stuck. You're not like damaged, right? You're human. We all have this. Some of us have a lot of it. My mom had a lot of it. We lived a comfortable life. I don't know, and she didn't really know like what she was worrying about. Of course, I wasn't a life coach back then. I was a teenager. So, my mom died when I was really young. Well, I really young. I was 30, but like the times that I remember her saying that she was nervous, like I never really understood, what would be causing that, right? Because that's what we want. We feel like we have to figure out why. Like, why is this happening to me? What is causing it? Our brains are causing it. Why it's happening to you is because you're human. And just accept that. Like, we all have this. It happens to all of us on varying degrees. And the other thing that can be wrapped into this is stress, right? Like, so for me, like when I just imagine being stressed and I have such a hard time like getting my finger on like what's stressing me out, right? And I can't figure it out. I can feel it, right? For me, I feel it up in my shoulders and it lives in my neck and shoulders. And now that I've, changed my life and I run my own business and I set my own hours and I pick and choose stressful things that I want to do and don't want to do, I still have stress in life, right? But it's a lot different than what it was when I was in my 9 to 5. But that's how I would notice that I was having a lot of stress was my neck would get really tight and it would get out of place. I'd start having headaches. But what's behind that is anxiety. It's the worry about something in the future. I was worrying about the things I wasn't getting done, the things I needed to get done. I was always worrying about all the stuff, right? So the why really is the what, because the answer to why is we're human and this is what happens to us, and it's just how we navigate it. So it isn't something that you cure, it isn't something that you get rid of, right? But we want to understand how to manage it, what to do with it, because what makes it worse is we typically will react to it. So that can look like resistance, avoidance. And so when we have that anxious feeling, it's what we do once we feel it. So it's reacting or fighting, lashing out, avoiding, right? Resisting, staying small, kind of hiding, sitting and sulking. We need to sleep, we need to take a nap. For some, it might be going to some kind of a vice. It might be over social media. It might be drinking or eating. If there's things like that, that you're trying to avoid the feeling of being anxious. And the reality is, it's like every other human emotion. It's just a sensation in our body. It has more of like me and my coach like to describe it as like this buzz of vibration. So, it can come with that pressure in the chest and that, uneasy feeling in the stomach and things like that. But as it exists, it kind of has this buzz to it. And it just kind of has this hum, this kind of constant, and it can be with all of that other stuff, the pressure on the chest and the butterflies in the stomach. And then it has just kind of that buzz that it's just there, right? It's like part of us, we think. And so that might be the part that we have to recognize, that we can become aware of, and it gets our attention. At any point in the cycle that you can catch it, right, is just the interruption of you've got to catch it. You've got to become aware. You've got to recognize it, that it's happening. And for some, it might be like my coach always described, like first thing in the morning, that's when she would just feel the most strong sense of anxiety. And then she built her morning routine around how she would handle that and what she would do. And so if it's, an event that causes anxiety, if it's, certain times or certain things that you just know causes more anxiety, then it's coming. You can be prepared because there's no like circumvention, there's no like avoiding it from ever happening. It's going to happen, and it's how you handle it, how you react to it, how you show up to it. And I want to say show up to it more than react, because we don't want to be in that position of reacting to it. We want to be in the position of we are proactive, we're productive, we are empowered, we are taking intentional action around it. And so it's it's that actively accepting it. It's that that active action part of it, right? So that we're not just like, I just feel like sometimes we just fall into it and we just sulk, right? We just sulk and wallow and just, like this is happening to me. I just, this, it's like it's out of our control. So the very first thing I want you to take away from this is it is in your control. There might be times where you're, almost to the end of it, or you're halfway through before you catch it, that you don't catch it before, you don't catch it right away. It's going to happen, but also you can get control of this. So I do have a little exercise. If you would like that, it's a free exercise that kind of walks you through step by step what to do, and some different like actively responding to it, some very healthy ways to handle it in the moment, to be prepared, to know and understand like what are some of the things I can do when this happens next time. One of the most, I kind of want to say easy, because it is easy, and I think for some of you you don't think of it as easy, but just grab a pen and paper and write down everything that you're thinking. Write down everything that you're experiencing. Just unload it all. That in and of itself, journaling, writing it down, taking the moment, typing it into the notes in your phone, whatever that looks like that you're able to do, right? That action interrupts the anxiety cycle, because now you've directed your brain from like all the thoughts it's thinking to recognizing the thoughts and writing them down, right? And so now your brain isn't just sitting there, you're not just experiencing it in your body anymore, because your brain is on a mission to find all the thoughts and feelings and write them all down and describe it all out. And the whole time knowing that all of the experience that you're having, the whole anxiousness, worry, nervousness, uneasiness, it's all coming from your thoughts. Your brain, your lovely human brain that can plan and execute and strategize and do all these amazing things with your prefrontal cortex, still has the caveman portion that when it feels this sensation, it thinks there's danger, and it just creates this overwhelming cycle of anxiety. And so that's what it does. It's what it's designed to do. It's a survival mechanism. It's in there. It's going to stay in there. But just know that. Just understand and recognize that's what my brain does. And so you can interrupt that cycle, because they're just thoughts, right? And most of the time, these are illogical, they're unreasonable, they're unlikely. I mean, even if you want to go like they're just unlikely. And maybe some of this stuff, if it's you worry about someone, a loved one that has a risky job, right? Like, so it's not always that they're unlikely or like unfathomable or unrealistic, all of that, right? That might not be the case, that there might be some truth under there. But here's what I always tell myself. Me worrying does not create any kind of protection for the other person. So if my loved one has a dangerous job, me worrying about them having an accident does not prevent them from having an accident, just makes me miserable. And it damages my relationship with that person. It changes how I show up with them, right? And if this is what they've chosen, then this is what we have to work with. And so we just have to manage that for ourselves. So what does that look like? If that stuff is like they're valid thoughts, that doesn't mean you have to think them, right? That is a choice. So you can think they're smart, they're educated, they're protected. I'm going to love them and I'm going to pray for them and I'm going to, send them all of my love. That is a totally different experience for you than just sitting there worrying, imagining the worst and what would you do and what's going to happen, right? And you get to pick. You actually do get to pick. And so just knowing that that can happen, that you can spin into that cycle and that you can take control of it, that is huge for you. Just embrace that empowerment that you have to control this, to do different things, to handle it differently, to interrupt it so that you can take back control, right? It's all available to us, even though, and I know and I recognize there's times for me, it doesn't feel like I have control. It feels like it's happening to me. And that's when I'm like, whoa, it's time to take a look at what's going on here. That's always the case. Anytime that you're feeling like life is happening to you or something is happening to you, you have to pause, put some distance between you and that thing and take a look at it. Get curious, build the awareness around it and understand what's going on. Always an option. I think we just, especially in modern day today, there's just a lot of things that we can use to buffer from all of it. And so whenever we do that, we're out of touch with ourselves and we're not living an authentic life. So if this is something you experience, if anxiousness, if being anxious, having anxiety, right? That's the way we say it, like we have it. We all have it. So instead of using that as a label or an excuse or like this is just something that I have to deal with, understand what that means. We all do because we have a human brain. We have a human survival brain, so we all have this. And this is what we can do with what we have because there's also this amazing part of our brain that can turn it all around. And so if you have one, you have the other. You have a complete brain. If you're here listening to me, seeing me and functioning, you have it and you can do this. If you want any help, if you have any questions, if you get stuck in this or you're like, I tried this and this is what happens, or I don't really know how to catch it, like all of that, just reach out to me. I would love to answer those questions. If there's anything I can do to help you not be suffering and instead have an amazing life, I absolutely want to do that. I do have the worksheet. If you guys are interested in that, just drop me a message and let me know. I'd love to send it over to you and help you work on it. If you have any questions as you go through, that's certainly available to you too. I know some people like to have the worksheets with the questions and kind of work through the exercises, and some just like to take the information and just run with it. So it's completely up to you, whichever way you learn best. Just know that I have that available to those that would like it. And as always, grab your journal, write it all out. That's always an option, a quick and easy one, and then physical movement. So those are your takeaways for today. I hope you are having an amazing Tuesday. Any questions on anything, let me know. If not, I will catch you next Tuesday. Have a great week.